Hello and welcome to the Onyx Path Twitch channel, Scarredland's Creature Collection Q&A session with Jon Hodgson of Handiwork Games. Jon, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Do you prefer Jon or Johnny in conversation?
I don't mind Jon. Probably Jon is probably easiest. And
Okay.
hello.
Well, hello. It is nice, as we were just speaking about before we got live, it's nice to virtually meet you. We've
Yeah,
had
absolutely.
the occasion of having a few digital text conversations over the last couple of months, um, but uh, but it's nice to put a face with the name. So I guess let's dive right into it. You are the creative director, owner, operator of Handiwork Games, correct? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, kind of. I own it, so I do an awful lot of different jobs. It's kind of my company, my studio, and we work for a whole bunch of different companies providing kind of full. This is like the official blurb is we provide full spectrum production services, which is mostly comes down to providing a lot of artwork for a lot of different companies, and also quite a bit of layout, graphic design. We provide writing, proofing for different companies, as well as working on our own games as well. But one of the very, very first things that we were asked to do when I was setting up the company right at the beginning of the year was Rich Thomas from Onyx Path was very kind in being really supportive of us and asking us to work on the creature collection.
That's awesome. That is super cool. So, I guess for a little background, when did you first encounter Scarred Lands? What is your history with the setting? Was this something that you first encountered when Rich brought this up to you, or do you have a background with it prior to?
Well, I could dig right back into if we go kind of almost pre Scarred Lands, and the creature collection. I remember I was working in games retail for my sins in the UK when 3D hit. So I remember the very first creature collection coming out because it was a really big deal at the time.
Right.
Yeah. So I certainly was very familiar with that one. But then there's this kind of enormous pause. I followed the Scarred Lands 5e conversion with great interest. I was at the time that was kind of new on the scene in 5e. I was working for a company called Cubicle 7, and we were working on some 5e stuff. We did converted the Middle Earth games that company publishes. We converted those to 5e, so there was, I was aware of what was going on in the kind of 5e verse in that way. So, yeah, what do they call that? The 5e sphere, the 5e verse.
Yeah, the
5e.
Yeah, I guess 5e is probably just the smoothest way to refer to it.
It doesn't need an extra bit.
Yeah, most people know what you're talking about. At least people that you don't have
Oh,
to get the get them in the door pitch going for.
yeah.
And so you did some time working at Games Workshop. Is that correct? No, not Games Workshop. I'm sorry. It was Cubicle 7.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have worked at Games Workshop as well as a freelancer for many years. I have knocked about in the industry for a very long time. I spent 6 years on and off working for Warhammer Historical for Games Workshop. That was the main thing I did for them. I also worked on Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and I did a couple of novel covers for Black Library. So yeah, that's all. But then, sort of anyone that's been around long enough in the UK games industry has passed through the Nottingham HQ of Games Workshop at some point. So I've managed to avoid 2000 AD. I didn't do anything for 2000 AD, and that's kind of unusual, actually.
That is a little odd. You should just try to squeeze one of those in before while it's still around.
Do. God, yeah, I should dust off my. So when I first started out, I wanted to be a comic artist, and then to my shame, I discovered you had to produce 24 pages a month. And I was like, that seems very difficult.
That's a lot of work. Yeah. No, I know a surprising. I guess it's not that surprising, but I know a lot of people in the tabletop industry have at least some love for and desire to work in comics.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of narratively adjacent in a number of ways.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
So you left Cubicle 7 like end of last year, basically.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. A year and a day ago. believe it
Oh
or not.
well, happy anniversary
Yeah, yeah,
on your
yeah,
freedom.
yeah.
And now, when you left it, was it just with the aim of I'm going to start Handiwork Games, and that's where that was that the plan immediately on leaving, or was
Yeah.
that something?
Very shortly after leaving, because it's what I know how to do. I was kind of running all the production there for a few years, and managing a lot of different areas. At that time, the company's hugely restructured now. I mean, it's a completely different place. It's entirely different staff, basically. But I'd been running all the lines for about 18 months. I think 2 years. I was in charge of directly in charge of all the game lines. So One Ring, Doctor Who, Victoriana, the Call of Cthulhu stuff. We did all of that jazz, which meant I was very tired, indeed. But yeah, the sort of change in direction gave me some time to think about what I wanted to do, and it took me probably about a day to go, well, why don't I do it for myself? Why don't I carry on doing what I had been doing, but run a company. So
Right,
more for me.
be
That's
the
what
guy who
I'm
gets to make the
doing.
decisions on what time and when you work late and when you don't.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah, and then, yeah, it's quite different. It's been really interesting discovering there's uh, a similar and yet very different kind of stress going on, because when I'm stressed now, I'm in control of it.
right.
Whereas when I was stressed before and quite burnt out, I wasn't in control of it. It was, I was sort of doing my best to work for somebody else, and that's a different kind of stress. But
Very, very
all
much
the fun
so.
of the fair, as they say.
Very much so. Yeah, it is a different beast to be the one
Mm.
who makes those decisions, and it's not. I don't even know that it's less stress as much as it's
No,
just
different,
a
isn't it?
different flavor.
Different flavor, and it makes a change, and it's, yeah. I mean, I've had some. What a year it's been! It's been incredible managing cash flow and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
That's been exciting. But wow, it's working. Believe it
Well,
or not,
and
you know.
I think that that's a testament to the beauty and um, just craftsmanship of the stuff that you guys are creating. And I've been telling people as I'm kind of going around and talking to folks and doing press about the Scarred Lands Kickstarter, um, because you and Rich had already had this worked out before I took on the role of the line developer for Scarred Lands. This
Mm,
was already well in production by that point. So I've
yeah, right.
had
Yeah.
the uh, unique and wonderful privilege of engaging with it largely as a fan. So I've just got to watch it and go, oh, this looks so cool. Oh, the new art for the in white is so beautiful, and really just sort of nerd out over it. So that's been really quite cool, and I am really blown away by the quality of the stuff that is being done on this book.
I mean, I've got to immediately give props to Scott Purdy, who's our in-house artist, and he's handling most of the artwork. Now, the great thing there is he absolutely loves doing monsters. That's sort of part of how it all came about. He's a huge monster fan. I thought I'd be splitting. I thought maybe I'd do a third of them and he'd do 2/3. Sort of pre-Kickstarter. We've got a wider team for, I still got to say, should we fund? We funded, and the rest. But yeah, there'll be some more voices coming in there. But before the Kickstarter, we kept it all between us. And I thought I'd do about a third, and he would do 2/3. And I think I've done 3 monsters, and he's done 57 monsters plus what he's done in the last 2 weeks. We've been which is probably another 20 or so. So he's a machine, and you can see he's loving it. I mean, the work has been fantastic.
It is
Really beautiful.
incredible work, and yeah, to be cranking out work of that quality that fast, there's no way he doesn't love it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's so good at it. He's really happy. We've been doing some stuff for I can't say names of who we've been working for, because the story is he's really glad to stop working for those people and get back onto Scarred Lands. We can't say the name of one of the foremost well-respected companies in the business who actually we love and really like working for. But it
Well,
was nice to get back onto the old Scarred Lands.
it's just reframing it, of revisiting the not from anything negative of the other experience, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
being so excited
And
about the Skylands experience.
absolutely right, and that is what it is, very much so.
And so, right, you mentioned earlier, right when you were kind of getting Handiwork off the ground, you had this conversation with Rich
Mm.
about about your company producing the creature collection in like a partnership, or can you break down a little bit without getting too far into, the nitty gritty, nobody's business, people will fall asleep while they listen to it details, of how that functions and is functioning.
So, I mean, the really simple version and quick version is we are going to produce the entirety of the book. Like we've been at great pains to say, we've got sort of 60 monsters when the campaign started. So, it's kind of half of what we needed to at the basic level. So half done, completely done, and not just manuscript, converted, edited, proof, laid out, illustrated, completely done. And we will do that for the entire book. We, as a studio, will produce the entire thing. Rich is aware we, as a sort of team, we have all the necessary experience, all the people to do that and deliver print ready files. We've made the contacts with the printers so that we can produce it in Europe, so that the shipping is a lot less for international backers. And I mean, we're probably doing more stuff than, strictly speaking, the beyond what we agreed to do, what the contract was, just because I've got connections here that I'm very happy to share with Rich and Onyx Path. So we'll hand over print ready files. It will be printed, and Onyx Path sort of take it from there. That's kind of the simple level. I mean, there's a sort of longer story about getting to know Rich, which I like the story. It's a really nice story, so I'm going to tell it.
By all means.
We were both guests of honor at Industry Insider guests of honor at Gen Con one year, and it's a weird experience being a guest of honor. You don't always you see the names of people who obviously you recognize from the industry. You don't necessarily know them, especially if you're UK based and you don't get to do a lot of US shows. So I bumped into this guy. We were waiting outside of the one of our seminars. Basically, the Industry Insider track is a series of seminars, and I was pretty sure it was Rich outside, and I think maybe he kind of vaguely knew who I was, and we kind of introduced ourselves to each other, and we got on really well, and we did a brilliant panel that I enjoyed the most. It's the favorite panel I've ever been on, with Nicole Lindrews of Green Ronin, Rich, and myself about gender representation in fantasy art. And it was really good. It was because we were prepared for it because that's a pretty hot topic. And I think, this is 4 or 5 years ago now. And it could have been a powder keg. I mean, with good reason, right? Not to criticize that. I think sometimes that's necessary. But it was brilliant, really good. And everyone was sort of, all of my fellow panelists were really smart, I thought, and wanted to hear what people had to say and so on. And we really clicked, and we've been talking ever since about working together in some capacity. I've been working on Pugmire and stuff like that. And what else have I done? I'm sure I've done some other projects. I'm completely blanking on that. But definitely Pugmire and Monarchies and Now did some good stuff on.
Which, not to sidebar us too far off topic, but
sure.
That's got to be I've had the pleasure of writing for Pugmire, so I know how fun that can be. I can only imagine the joy of working on art for Pugmire.
It's great. It's really nice. It's really nice. I got the absolute honor of doing one of the kind of iconic characters. So it's the Dachshund with the bow, the ranger, and see, I'm showing myself up because I don't know the names, but I don't always get told this stuff, or I don't always absorb it because it doesn't matter for that part of it. I don't need to know the names, right? I just need to know what it looks like. But that was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. So we were always talking about doing more stuff. And then, I mean, Rich was super supportive when he found out I'd, left my role at Cubicle 7. He was really, really keen to help out, which was really kind. I had a lot of very, very kind contacts that really, it wasn't the happiest time in my life, and some really kind people who picked me up and put me on my feet, for which I will always be grateful. And Rich is one of those people, probably foremost amongst them, actually. It was just like, right, what are we going to do? Which was great.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. And I absolutely adore Rich. I have a, you know, I don't poke Rich unless I need to policy. But so far, I have just had wonderful experiences. He's genuinely just a just a cool guy. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I can see that. I can see that sort of meshing in that fashion. So when did that coagulate into this is what we're doing? Like this is the plan.
So
This
that
is
it must have been around January of this year, I think. I could like do a lot of clicking and typing
oh
and pull up the contracts and when they were signed. No, I think we agreed right at the beginning of the year. We agreed we'd been talking a little bit before the turn of the year, and then it got serious. And the first couple of months was kind of contracts, and we seriously, because it was interesting because it was a completely open playing field what we were going to do. It took quite a while to decide exactly what shape it's going to be, and you can agree to do a thing in principle, but when it comes down to contracts and so on are necessary, especially if it's like a big project and who's handling what, it all needs to be put down, and that takes a while, and it took a while. I kind of pitched what form I thought it could all take, and Rich had his ideas of how he wanted it to do it, what he wanted the project to do, and what it was for in kind of more boring sort of business terms, and we won't bore people with that stuff. But primarily getting a foothold into printing in Europe, which I could help with very easily because I live here at the moment until maybe the end of the month, and then I don't live in Europe anymore, which is a bit of a downer. But there we go. We
oh
shall
yeah,
see.
that's true. Whether
Don't
whether you
talk
want
about
to or
that.
not.
Why did I
Yeah,
bring that up? Don't
right.
talk
Yeah,
about that.
I my living somewhere that's run by crazy people. You have my deepest
Well,
sympathies.
yeah.
But but yeah,
Now I've
having
got a
said
drink.
that, I think I'll join you. Crack open another diet Mountain Dew. So
Mm.
yeah, but to that end though, so was it always clear as you were discussing it that it was going to be Scarred Lands and it was going to be Creature Collection? Was that always the plan, or
Not
were
right at the
there?
beginning. It was we were sort of casting around for something that where the sort of skills we could bring to the table, we could bring as Handiwork Games could bring to the table would fit with something that the Onyx Path needed, and yeah, that's where stuff like Scott Purdy being a crazy monster fan, really clicks into place, and the fact we can do, Paul Bourne works me who does layout. Paul doesn't make a huge show of himself, if you know what I mean, in the industry. He's not a big self promoter, but I think he's one of the most talented layout people working in the business.
Well,
And
and
yeah, having all that on hand was significant.
well, and that kind of that I think makes a pretty good segue to some of the other things I wanted to touch base on before we get too far into like the like really cool, just like this monster's neat and whatnot part, which could
Oh,
be obviously the whole deal. We had
yeah.
a mention in chat that the new book looks amazing with the graphic touches, like the tabs for the environments
Mm-hmm.
and things along those being brilliant.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so thanks, Bill Zilla, for pointing that out in chat. I wanted to, was that a decision that came down from your layout department? How did that come about? Because that's a pretty cool innovation that I don't know that I have personally seen.
Okay, well that's I'm trying to find a way to deflect that onto someone else, but that's me. I'm really really interested in the way we use role playing game books at the table. Right at the table is my real key concern. Now, you've got me started. So role playing game books are books you read sometimes from cover to cover, but then once you read it, they are reference works, and very often they're not necessarily designed to be reference works, and there are some obstacles to overcome for people to be at ease with that. I've been really really happy nobody's gone really mad that we're doing one monster per page, which I really think is so important. And we did a bit of we went out and asked people across all around the internet about what they wanted for a monster book, and I actually expected more kind of content-based replies, if you like, so people talk about different kinds of monsters. Maybe I was anticipating more higher CR creatures, maybe something like that. Anyway, but what we got almost across the board was I need to be able to find monsters I'm looking for. And a really helpful little stepping stone towards that is doing one a page, so that at a base level, you've really got me going now. At a base level, they can be just alphabetized. You know, when you pick up a bestiary, and it's in sections, and you don't know what section. You know, like something like trolls, right? Are they goblins? You know,
Right.
that sort of
Yes.
stuff. Okay, in Games Workshop, yes, but are they? And you're looking for a thing, and sometimes you need it quick, and there's no hope with some stuff. So yeah, I'm going to stop before I go too far. But yeah, that's my obsession with usable role playing game books, and I really like trying to build in tools into the graphic design.
Well, I absolutely love it, and all the feedback that I've seen so far. If I've missed some, I'm happy to have it pointed out to me. But all the feedback I've seen so far, just thinks that that's a brilliant, brilliant innovation. So let me take that a step further. Do you have a plan to? Because I love my Dead Tree books and all, but I these days don't really use them at the table anymore.
Yeah, sure.
Because I do a lot of my running either here or I'm at a convention, and it's a whole lot easier for me to carry my iPad to a con than it is for me to carry 47 books. You know, when I was in my 20s, that wasn't a big deal, but now I'm old and my joints hurt. So, you know, it's so is there a plan to integrate some of that cross functionality into the digital product? So where, for example, you've got these tabs for environment where you click on that tab and it would link you to all the creatures by environment or something along those lines. Is that something that's been?
There's the great thing is I taught myself a couple of years ago how to like hyperlink PDFs and stuff like that, and I'm crazy enough to I'm the guy who scanned, cleaned up, and hyperlinked Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition in 5 working days. I had to do that, and I will be eternally proud of the job I did there. This is really showing off, but it was that was a monumental task.
I can imagine so.
Yeah. It's one of those ones where you're in the middle of it going, why did I start this? Anyway, but yes is the short answer. Yes, definitely. I really, really want it to have an enormous amount of functionality in PDF. Do you know, one thing that doesn't work very well on Kickstarter is I still reserve the sort of freedom to figure some of that out once the book's done, you know, and right. We'll go, oh, we can do this, you know, which is not a sign of a lack of, you know, people go, oh, you should know what you're doing before you start. Yeah, you know, it's going to be great, but we'll probably add more stuff in when we start to tinker with the file, you know. And
oh yeah, as you create, I think it's very easy, particularly, and I'm gonna segue very briefly into my indie publisher soapbox. I think it's very easy to nail yourself to a wall with your concept, and not if you let go of that flexibility, miss some opportunities. Yeah. You know, yeah. So I think that sometimes people feel I am 100% for as much transparency as possible in a Kickstarter, but having said that too, I think that sometimes people think, well, if I don't mention it in the Kickstarter, I can't do it, and I think that's probably a little, you know, probably a little erroneous.
You've got to have a little bit of. I think to do something really good, you've got to have a bit of courage of your convictions, you know, and be prepared to go, no, we're going to do it this way because it's going to be really good.
Well, and as long as it's a X and
exactly, don't take anything away. That would be really bad, right? Then there's no. It's a shame, isn't it? Because I think people are wary of that stuff, and in a way, they're right to be in the sort of world we live in. But we certainly don't, you know. My kind of record, I suppose. I would like people to look at that. I always try and deliver more than, you know, you never deliver less, right?
Right.
Yeah, always. Cool. Yeah. We definitely the you know the digital stuff. Now there's some stuff I don't really want to talk about. I mean, even there's some stuff I need to report back to Rich first. to do with virtual tabletop integration stuff, which has proved interesting. Learning about that, the behind the scenes stuff is all kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we need to, I really want it to really integrate into VTT as hard as possible.
Absolutely,
but it's not as easy as as I wish it was.
There are some things. Well, and some of it's platform too. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of them, and they're good.
Right, but a little less so when you're trying to design for 5 platforms.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a challenge. Yeah. But at the end of the day, though, totally achievable. I do have a couple of questions in chat that I want to just touch base on real quick, and then a couple other things I had in mind as well. Somebody had asked, looking at the stretch goals, is there a practical upper limit to the number of creatures that could be included in the collection?
Yes, there is. And let me check, because obviously I've got the thing open all the time. Slightly. Do you know I've done really well in not being obsessive on this campaign? I do not look at the backer report, and I don't look at adjustments. I used to do that. I've run a whole bunch of campaigns, and that's the road to being unhappy.
I got to tell you, I'm not running the campaign, and I'm looking at it a couple times a day. So,
you're always first to social media with stuff. But yeah, I'm pacing myself very carefully. So I think we have said 256 pages is where we're going to top out, because one of the real hard limits, and people don't often talk about this, is if you go over 2 kilograms, shipping really goes crazy. And I think it's really easy sometimes to think, oh, well, that's not my problem as a backer. But it is, because badly run campaigns get all giddy and make the book massive, and they think they've got infinite money, and you get over 2 kilos in weight, and the thing, just the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
So 256 is where we will stop, and then we won't stop delivering material. It will be digitally delivered.
That's excellent.
Because I don't want to. Nobody wants us to have to spend 5 years making the thing.
Right.
I want to deliver it on time, and it's at the moment it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a tricky one to offer something exciting and a great deal and all of that, which hopefully is what we're doing. But you've got to keep your feet on the ground as well. Someone has to say enough. We can't. And I'm trying to find the bit on the Kickstarter page that says where it's going to top out, and I'm sure it does. It might be right at the bottom. I'm going to give up. I'm going to have one more little scroll, and I'm going to give up because it's annoying me. I can't just find it, but I know it's there.
While you're scrolling for it, I'm seeing in chat that I believe it was Pan Dashend was the one that you drew for PubMed.
Ah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
But
he says after the fact. Yeah.
But now 256 is going to be the page count limit. Do you have an estimate as to, I know that there's a couple pages if we unlock the CR?
Yeah, monster wise, 256 will probably, I've got to do some numbers in my head. You're probably looking at 230 there.
Okay.
Roughly speaking. Yeah, normally it's 8 pages for non-author created content, as I glamorously call it, for things like, frontispiece and contents and all that jazz.
Right.
And then we'll indexing is going to be given appropriate space and stuff, and we'll see about encounter packs and all that jazz. We'll see what
other ways to pepper it up.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, the leather effect cover was another thing that I really thought was kind of a cool addition that I haven't seen a whole lot. So what prompted that choice?
So the printer that we use in Europe does these absolutely fantastic range of different covers, and you can kind of take your pick on all these different finishes, and they're really great. I did a few in my previous position, and we know the ins and outs of doing them. And if you take the same sort of guts of the book, as they romantically call it, and you can add a really beautiful cover to it, and things like ribbons and so on. It is relatively straightforward to do if you get the right printer, and we have the right printer. So yeah. It's a nice thing to do, right? For people that want the really fancy one.
That's the
So,
one
yeah.
I backed for.
Well, thank
it's
you very much,
it's
Travis.
it's pretty.
You didn't need
I
to.
want that on my shelf. So,
Mm. Yeah, and only 100. There's not many of those left. I was put it in an update. Oh, look, 2 have gone. So there are only 30 left of those. I've been mildly surprised at the uptake, because sometimes it's nice to have a few left at the end, to take to events or what have you.
For sure.
But I don't think we're going to have any left.
Yeah, and to that end too, there is I guess the moral component of it being effectively a cruelty free cover, which is another thing you don't always see. So I mean, that's kind of cool.
I mean, I can't guarantee it's vegan, but it's not leather. I mean, I'm lifelong vegetarian, so we're not doing leather one.
Yeah, awesome.
Really straightforward, just not doing it.
No, that's cool though, because I mean, you're able to. I just thought it was neat to be able to find a way to satisfy the desire for something special, cool with that kind of an effect to it, and still be able to adhere to that kind of a principle. That's very neat.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how many sort of leather books you see are like not really leather anyway.
Right.
I mean, I know obviously some are, but you wonder, don't you?
Wonder if it's just cheaper to do it anyway that way. But yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, and speaking of the shipping thing, I see a couple people talking about just sizes and some general chat about book size and shipping. Just with the 256 page cutoff, that's kind of a behind the scenes thing that I think maybe people don't discuss a whole lot on their Kickstarters, and I think it may be obviously not the case for Onyx Path, who've run 7 million Kickstarters or something like that. But publishers going in the first time to a Kickstarter, I don't think are aware of those sorts of problems. One of the things that I've heard said around is the quickest way to go broke making a game is to have a successful Kickstarter.
Oh, it's really terrifying, believe you me. I did just before this one, because I'm a crazy person, I went pretty much straight from running a Kickstarter for my map tiles to doing this one, and on my map tiles, both the cost of what went up, a couple of things in production went up, and I was like, because it went much larger than I expected. I thought I was going to get about 100 backers, right? I've got a Patreon and jonhodgsonmaps.com. We'll get that plug in there. And I only have a couple of 100 backers. And I thought maybe half of them will back for these funky map tiles that I did. But 450 people backed to the map tiles. And it's like, oh, right. And then you suddenly go, if this, and I'd done they were really great value. But great value, right, is not a lot of profit, and there's not a lot of space to soak. Let's take it away from my stuff. But the cost of paper stock to print books changes. The relative value of currencies change. We've seen this in the industry. There have been companies that have been killed by changes in currency exchange rates. Guardians of Order springs to mind. Canadian dollar versus the US dollar shifted and destroyed their business model, basically. And we live in a sort of quite a volatile economy. I think if you don't have much experience, and you get a really big Kickstarter success, it's frightening. I really feel for those people, because they're dropped in the deep end, and hopefully they get advice on what to do and what not to do pretty quick, because you never have infinite money. We always used to talk about this at the old job. There's that point. Everyone has a number beyond which you just can't conceive of that this is, an amount of money you can spend. So, for some people it changes. For me, it's about 20 pounds,
Right, exactly. What am I going to do with all this cash?
Yeah. And it's really easy. So that'll never happen to me. And then you're in, and Kickstarter madness is a thing. You're in the final hours of your campaign, and you've got way much more than you thought you were going to get. And you go, let's just throw in this stuff too. And no, there goes the profit. Right. And when I say profit, I mean the ability to sort of deliver, or the ability to soak a delay of 2 weeks from customs or something. Suddenly all this stuff can really bite you if you don't have experience.
Yeah, so you stick. You don't have to stick to the plan like glue in terms of not adding things, but you have to be very wary
Mm,
of where you are making those calls and be very aware of how costs
yeah.
are going. And speaking of costs, I guess we've mentioned a couple times your access to some of the shipping that's gone that's going to be handling the international shippers or the international backers, I should say,
Yeah.
on this Kickstarter, and that has provided a very different um, cost ratio for those international backers on this
Yeah.
versus another Kickstarter.
This is
Um,
it's a little bit experimental,
right,
for Onyx Path to be able to do that. And it is, about getting footholds in other territories that helps you, and it's another tough one. It's tough.
what I was going to say is this, um, again, without exposing the underbelly of the business to the world. Is this kind of something that you and Rich are looking at as kind of like a
Yeah,
pilot and saying like, okay, if we can
yeah,
pull
yeah,
this off, this may be
yeah.
something that we can roll forward into.
Yeah, and it's really tough. I mean, I have it in the other direction as well when we're producing stuff in the UK. Until you've done it, it's really terrifying to say print. I'm just thinking of some good numbers. So I can take some numbers from Handiwork Games. So say you print 9,000 units of a game, and you're just going to send it to somebody who you like met at a convention in another continent, and then it goes wrong. And I mean, I know there have been, obviously we can't go into details, but there have been instances of that in the history of Onyx Path, where somebody who seems really super reliable turns out they're not.
Right,
And how do you find out these things? Obviously, the better you are in business, the more of a nose you have. But there are people out there who are just trying to deceive or deceive themselves. So it's a
right.
tough one.
Overcommit and
Yeah,
say, I mean, kind of going back to the same thing that causes successful Kickstarters to be epic failures is overcommitting oneself
yeah,
to a
yeah,
responsibility. So
totally.
yeah, taking
Yeah,
things safely and seriously is a good call. Got a comment in chat, I guess. Comment and question. Bunnypaw7 says, I'm backing for the limited edition as well, but hoping
awesome.
there's going
Thank
to be
you.
an ability to buy a hardcover too somehow during the campaign or through Backer Kit. They wanted a limited edition for the collection, a hardcover copy at the table. Isn't there a hardcover add-on?
I think there is. See, this is the sort of thing. There's so much goes on. I think there is, I'm questioning myself, going, oh, if I very, stridently say, absolutely, it's in add-ons. Is it? Yes, it is. So you can. Oh, wait, no, you can't. That is absolutely something we need to add in. There will be, and we will add that in. Do you know what I get confused with is the Scarlands 5e Player's Guide. So we do need to add in additional copies of the creature collection. Do you know what? I'm actually going to write that down because that needs to happen.
Well, and this is the kind of thing. Again, speaking to planning Kickstarters and pulling the curtain and showing you the wizard behind the curtain, these are the kinds of things that sometimes you think to yourself, "Of course, we have that."
Yeah. Yeah. You can see I've got no shame. I have no shame about like going, I need to look at the campaign page because, oh, good grief, I can't keep it all in my head,
Right.
and I mean, a pretty good memory, but I can't. Yeah, but no, absolutely right. There will be that option, and I think we said probably in like week one that was going to appear, and I don't think we've ever actually done it. And yeah, because we were also asked for the 5e Scarlands
Yeah.
book. So yeah, we need to do additional copies added in. We'll get that up tomorrow.
Um,
See what I did there? Mistake. I promised something tomorrow. It will come up before the end of the campaign. Because
yeah,
this is the other thing, you find something happens, nothing to do with the campaign. Something happens on another project, or a member of staff has some, crisis or something, and you don't
I'll
even know
keep you
something.
honest about it. I'll
Yeah,
ride you about it every day. I'll shoot you a
yeah,
message.
yeah, yeah,
Hey, is
yeah.
this on yet?
Please do, please do.
And we got a question: what percentage
Mm.
of backers are pledging at a rate to get a hard copy of the book?
We can just look that up, can't we? Is
Yeah.
that not? I
Is
think
that something we can just crunch the math on real quick? I don't know.
I think it's. Is that public on the like? I think it is, isn't it?
I
It
mean, you
tells
can
you the number
see
of
how many
backers.
backers are
Yeah,
on each tier, I suppose,
yeah.
and then
So
do a
yeah,
bunch of. I'm not good with math though. which is a terrible thing for somebody who's a game developer to admit, but I am terrible at math.
So it's about double the number of going for hard copy as are going for PDF, and then you add in the limited hardcover as well, so it takes it to half as much again, sort of rounding up quite generously. But yeah. So, a couple of hundred on PDF, 400 or so on hardcover.
The percentage is lots.
Yeah. People still like books, don't they? Good.
And let's see. Just checking out, trying to catch a couple things here in the chat. Forgive me if I miss your question. If you have a direct question, putting question in all caps at the front of it actually does help it.
Just put it in all caps.
Stick out so that I can see it. Let's see. So yeah, there we'll definitely have that add-on before the campaign's over.
Yeah.
And I saw too, there's some stuff that allows you to pick up some of the 5e and some of the previous edition stuff is all digital only assets though, correct?
Yeah.
And the hardcover that you can get. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the PDF packs are a really good deal. Someone today was talking about picking up the PDF of the 5e player's guide, for Scarlands, and it's a great price because you get a couple of the 5e PDFs for less than the price of the player's guide alone. So really good, and that's a monstrous PDF. 312 pages.
It's a whole lot
that gave me some difficulties in pricing, let me tell you.
A whole lot of Scarred Lands in there. Okay, we have a question. Any other Scarred Lands books in the works from Handiwork? And what about other projects for other game lines? What can you talk about?
So I think this is very much a case of we will see how this one goes, and we'll have a big wash up at the end, I think. And if everyone is happy, then I certainly, from my side, don't see any reason not to do more. It's very much up to Rich. Obviously, we got to deliver the book. That would help, I think. But we're well on the way. I mean, we're just chugging along. As soon as it, sometimes it's one of those funny things. We funded day 2 or something, I think, and you go, all right, we better hire some people and get it's happening now. It's not going to be a week off while it churns along. It's like, oh, it's happening now. We better crack on, because if it's funded today, then it's going to be it's not going to be a smooth book by the end. So but we shall see, I think, is the answer to that, the diplomatic answer.
Cool.
But,
and
why not?
Do you have anything that's for other game lines or any other projects that you can talk about that Handiwork is working on outside of this?
Yeah, all sorts going on. So we're working at the main sort of stuff we're doing at the moment in terms of role-playing games is Beowulf for 5e, which is a 1 DM 1 player setting supplement for 5e, set in sort of world of Anglo-Saxon myth. And the really cool thing is, there's so many cool things. And also I'm not paid to talk about that, so I can't go on too long. But it's shaping up really, really well. That one is a real labor of love, and I mean the artwork and stuff is going to be really fantastic on that one. We're working with Ken Haidt to bring his Hellenistica setting to 5e. That's going to take its time. We're going to do that right, so that's coming along nicely. And we do our various card games and stuff. We've got too many projects that need to kind of get their time in the sun. That's one of my big jobs at the moment, is deciding exactly what should. See, my favorite is a card game called The Forest Dragon Farmer. We did The Forest Dragon by Rory, age 9, that was designed by my son, Rory. And then we did The Forest Dragon Bang and Twang, which was the follow-up. That one's quite a big hit. That's a bit of a cult hit. And The Forest Dragon Farmer is completely ready to print. And it just needs a little bit of time, to come out a great little game.
And are those available at the Handiwork Games website?
Yeah, and we got tons of Beowulf stuff there. We've been plugging away, making cool stuff for Beowulf.
All right, so definitely make sure that you're checking out the Handiwork Games website as well. Just sifting through Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left. So if you have any questions left that haven't been answered, make sure you get them in the chat.
Actually, to talk about some other stuff we're doing for other companies just very quickly, so I'm not don't
Sure.
appear rude. So we just finished up a supplement for Chaosium for RuneQuest, where I did art direction on that, and we provided a lot of artwork. That's in layout now. Don't want to breach any confidences on talking about titles or anything, but that's really cool. Scott does a lot of work through us for Monty Cook, so he's been doing some lovely work, and Paizo on Pathfinder. I saw his latest stuff at Pathfinder. It was really great. So yeah, we're busy.
That's awesome. Just scrolling through here. Give me 1 second. My chat misbehaved for a second there. Okay, question. I'm already backing at a high, maximum level. Thank you very much, Katina's one. But I want to add backing as a retailer too. Should I add to my pledge for that, or have the business partner do that as a separate pledge?
Probably, do you know what I think would be easiest? And this is like purely sort of personal opinion, and just to make it easy, if your business partner can do it as a separate pledge, that's probably the best way to make sure it goes smoothly through, knowing the sort of back end of Kickstarter and maybe back a kit or whatever the pledge manager that ends up being used. Probably easiest to do it as two. Again, I mean, if there's any problems, drop me a message and we can sort it out.
We'll figure it out one way or the other.
It'll be all right.
And then, excuse me. Let's see. How are other games looking to be in stores to be noticed more? I don't know that I understand your question, Black Plague. So I guess if you could clarify, that would be awesome. Real quick, while they're doing that, I did want to just touch base because we're getting a little bit under the hood of Kickstarter. We talked about this a little bit before we went live. There's been a couple places where people seem to have had some confusion or misconceptions regarding the fact that, as you know, if you're a fan of the channel, in addition to the Creature Collection Kickstarter, we have the Deviant the Renegades Kickstarter is running on Rich Thomas's Kickstarter profile, and you had very beautifully and eloquently explained that situation to, I believe it was on an EN World article.
Egg Embryo.
Yeah. So if you could just real quick give us a breakdown of how that functions, that would be, I believe, of interest to the audience.
Sure. Now, I'm I don't necessarily have, I'm a little bit cautious because I don't know how much of this I'm sort of allowed to talk about, but I'll talk in general terms. The really simple thing is this was all cleared with Kickstarter. There was some concern on the EN World that one or the other of the campaign would be pulled. That's not the case. This was cleared in advance. Rich is a smart guy who knows what he's doing. And Onyx Path has worked for so many years with Kickstarter and done so well on Kickstarter that there seems to be a very good relationship there, above my pay grade by a long way. But this is entirely legitimate and was sorted out before the campaigns began. So there is no. I was expressing a little bit of frustration that the worst possible reading of what's going on. This was cleared with Kickstarter, so cool. It's fine.
Yeah, again, and just to just to clear the air, because I absolutely understand some people might have a concern about that. So it's good to have it out there that this is absolutely 100% above board and good to go.
It is because the whole idea was that Handiwork Games would provide print ready files, so the projects are being made completely separately. There aren't shared resources, right, in terms of production. Right. I'm bringing the whole team. We're doing all of it. Employed by me, and then Rich buys the whole thing at the end. So or he buys it along the way, but that's too much detail.
Right. It's more under the hood than people need. Yeah. All right. So let's see. We got. Oh, what have I got here? Clarification came through. I know
Ooh.
Exalted and a few other games are not in the stores. What are the requirements to make it happen,
Ah,
to get things into stores? And so I don't. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is being kickstarted with the intention of being distributed in game stores. Is that accurate? Okay.
yeah. I mean, there's a few kind of interdependencies there. I'm trying not to get too boring about it. A lot comes down to the way it's printed and where it's printed, because the way hobby games and role-playing games are sold, there's a lot of people need a cut of the money,
Right.
to get it into stores, and it's much more accessible to print on demand, which I know Onyx Path has used a lot of, not exclusively, but an enormous amount of, and it's quite difficult to make that work in a retail environment, because retailers quite rightly want they want a decent amount of money to stock, to make the sales.
Right. They
If you're
have
printing on
lights
demand,
and yeah, they have
yeah,
lights and
yeah,
bells.
quite right. um, so you need to, there's a few sort of business model things that need to change to make that work really well, and it's a very tough challenge. I don't envy the businesses making the change from one model to another. Is quite a big jump, all to do with where money is tied up and so on. It's fantastically boring.
Right. Yeah.
But
Really is a
yeah,
buzzkill.
it's
Um,
yeah, it's really costs too much to do one thing, and then and it's
the
Anyway,
short
um,
the short version, and I know the Onyx Path is in chat, so they can correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm telling stories
mm,
out of school or overstepping my bounds. But my very basic understanding, and I think to really get to the guts of what Black Plague 369 was asking, my basic understanding is that from this point forward, uh, the general aim is when we're doing a traditional printing Kickstarter, that's ultimately their attempt is to get that into a store. I don't know that there's any plans that I'm aware of to get previous releases like Exalted,
I
things
don't
like
know,
that.
above my
I
pay
don't know,
grade.
and John certainly
Yeah,
doesn't know because.
no,
But my understanding is the current aim is to go in that direction, but that's really that's not the kind of thing that also that is really easy to speak to beyond the immediate. Because as one of the things that have been a repeated theme during this conversation, this business can shift on you, the ground
mm.
can move. So sometimes to say what's going to be 3 Kickstarters from now is very, very, very difficult to predict, because
Can I quickly tell you my favorite ever story about
oh,
this
absolutely.
kind of thing? Was we were producing some dice for the Wandering role playing game, and they were really popular. And we kind of the business partner for the Middle Earth games reordered them, and they were coming from China at the time, and they were on a boat, and people were very, very keen to get these dice. And then there was terrible flooding in Thailand. I mean, real, like, natural disaster, a lot of cost of human life. Now, Thailand is an international shipping hub, and it means if there's a disaster in Thailand, all shipping globally is affected, because obviously you can't, ships have to, one comes out, one goes in, kind of thing. It's a sort of matrix of ship
Right.
movement,
It's a major hub.
and if that's disrupted, everything is disrupted. And my favorite ever comment, I think ever of my career, was I mean, bless them, they were just keen to get their dice. Said, "Can't you helicopter them off the ship?" Like, yeah, I'll just go down to the helicopter pool now. It's
Right.
and
Like
take yeah
your Magnum PI, and you're gonna call your buddy
yeah
and hop in and fly
yeah
over.
helicopter. Can you find there's amazing stories about shipping. Like, once the containers are loaded onto a ship, nobody knows where they are. They're not
Right.
always even recorded as to where the containers are on the ship. And a certain percentage of containers fall off ships. And that's okay, according to international shipping people. That's just the sort of cost of moving stuff around. If you want loads of containers on ships, some of them fall off. And you're like, pardon? That's my like 20 grand's worth of dice. You can't.
Well, that's I mean, that's what the entire
So
organized
yeah, I mean,
crime
just
of
amazing. It's another world.
the entire organized crime industry in the U.S. was based on stuff that fell off the back of a truck. So
Yeah, right.
that's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
that's the
We
saying,
did.
isn't
We
it?
did always wonder. At one point, we started shipping the other way round the world, and the ships were going um, past Somalia, and of course, instantly, in a sort of offensive cliche, you're like, Somali pirates are gonna get a container full of one ring dice and be really disappointed. See Tom Hanks in that one.
Right, there you go. Yeah, the helicopter. Tom Hanks flying a helicopter to a ship to
Yeah,
get some dice for you.
to
That's
rescue the Gandalf dice.
yeah. There's
Nice.
there's there's a Oscar. It's got Oscar winner written all over it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Again, it's these sort of fantastically boring sort of sides of the business that Yeah.
absolutely. Well, we are a little bit over on time, but I do want to just take a couple minutes before we call it a day. First of all, I want to thank you, obviously, for coming and talking
No
about this.
problem. Thank
It's
you.
been
Thank you.
I wish we had 10 more hours to talk about it. I also just, I guess, wanted to ask you, just in terms of, you know, looking at it holistically, we're about 10 days away from the end. We still have plenty of stretch goals to unlock, and plenty of room to go. So if you have not done so yet, please go back to the Kickstarter. What's been your favorite part of this, of playing around in the world of Scarred Lands, and the process thereof?
I really like this. This might be a bit niche, but I really like that it's very like heavily influenced by sort of Greco-Roman myth, but it's not tied to it, and I really like that because my natural tendency will be to be appallingly purist about stuff, and you sort of it almost drains some of the fun out of it. Whereas Scarred Lands is like a kind of I don't want to offend anybody, but it's almost like sort of Romano Greco sort of I don't know Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms. Do you know what I mean? That it's
Right.
quite gonzo. There's a lot in there, but it means easy to run as well, right? You've got your sort of your points. So you've got Titans, you've got the Titans War stuff. Titan Spawn is in there, and you can kind of do what you want with it without having to be a scholar. And I think that's great especially for D&D.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. I often tell people, my elevator pitch for Scarred Lands is that you take Greek mythology, wrap it up in an issue of Heavy Metal magazine, and slap it into a Dungeon Master's guide, and then you have, Scarred Lands.
It's an enormous amount of fun, and I love, I like the sort of post-apocalyptic touches to it that you could do a lot with that if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, and the one of the things that I always found most striking about the creature collection specifically, but about Scarn in general, because I too became a fan of it from Creature Collection 1.
Right,
So
yeah.
because the creatures are, because every monster in that book has this like really cool lore hook. They're not just some corpse got up and started walking around. There's a reason why that corpse got up and started walking around. And it's they're just so fun and so cool. But yeah, we're a few minutes over. I know it's late over on your side of the pond.
It's getting that way. It's
so
getting that way.
I do appreciate you coming out and hanging out. If you want to real quick, just remind our audience of the places that they can go and check you out, the things that they can pick up right now today. And I would also like to take the opportunity to remind our audience to please back the Scarred Lands Creature Collection 5th Edition Kickstarter from Onyx Path and Handiwork Games.
Yep. So that is absolutely the first thing to do is to back that. And then the second thing to do is maybe check out my Patreon at jonhodgsonmaps.com. That's great. There's tons and tons of maps there. You get instant access to like a year's worth of work. I need to fix that. I give too much away. I don't know how. Yeah, how do you back off from that? You get you get all of it for like $3. I'm like, what? What am I doing? I haven't got time to fix it. So get in while you can.
There you go.
And then check out our website at handiwork.games. And there's all sorts going on there. That's the best place to find out more about what we get up to and what projects are coming up and all that stuff. So yeah, and thank you so much for having me on. I thought, oh, an hour. It's very late. I'm very tired, but I've had a great time. It's been good, lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a blast to talk. I just want to a couple quick last things before we sign off, just in terms of network. I guess bookkeeping. That's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to make sure that everybody, tunes in. Let's see. I thought I had a schedule right in front of me, and I'm not as smart as I thought I was. 2 seconds.
That's a sort of familiar story.
Yeah, you'd think I'd know it, but no, well, and here's the thing, right? Like, we have drastically expanded our schedule this week. So that's why I wanted to tell everybody what was going on. It is definitely up. Anytime you hit this channel and we're not actively broadcasting or hosting, you can see the schedule. But now that I am smart enough to actually look at what we've got going on here, we will be back here tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got 307 RPG is running through the Vengeance of the Shunned campaign that was created by myself and about 20 other people in the Slurry Sheen Vault community content program. And tomorrow at 4 p.m. EDT, Changeling the Lost Littlebrook Reunion is premiering on the channel. So definitely make sure you don't miss that. Going to be a great time. Lots of fun, and always good to see Changeling the Lost, which is at least debatably the most disturbing of the Chronicles of Darkness settings. So it should be fun to see what they do with that. Once again, thank you everybody for watching. If you have not done so, please make sure you follow us so you know when we go live. Subscribe, and you can get all sorts of nifty emotes that we've got. We just added a couple more. We've got a cute little pug steady pug with his head kicked to the side in case one of us says or does something confusing on the channel, which is frequent. And and we've got our botch die now, so we can celebrate it when our players have horrible things happen to them. John, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out and for sitting there politely while I fiddled around with my schedule. Everybody in chat, thank you so much for coming out and for your thoughtful questions. And as Jerry Springer used to say, be good to yourselves and each other.